Who would have thought we'd ever see the name Rush back on a major concert stage? For years, fans had accepted that the story of one of Canada's greatest rock bands had come to an end. The R40 tour in 2015 felt like the perfect farewell, a fitting conclusion to a career that had influenced generations of musicians and music lovers alike. And after the passing of the legendary Neil Peart, most people believed there was simply no way Rush could ever continue. Sure, GeddyLee and Alexlifeson reunited for the occasional special appearance over the years. They played at the South Park anniversary concert and later paid tribute to the late Taylor Hawkins. But those performances always felt like one-off celebrations rather than the beginning of a new chapter. A full-scale Rush tour, that seemed almost impossible. Then, out of nowhere, came the announcement that no one saw coming. Last October, during an appearance at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Geddy and Alex revealed that they missed making music together and had decided to return to the stage. Their plan was modest at first, a limited 7-city run, simply to reconnect with the fans, and perhaps more importantly, with each other. For the Rush faithful, it was the answer to a dream they had long since given up on. But one enormous question remained. Who on earth could take Neil Peart's place behind the drum kit? Replacing one of the greatest drummers in rock history isn't just difficult, it's arguably the most daunting job imaginable. Their choice surprised many people. Rather than bringing in a household name, Geddy and Alex put their trust in the incredibly talented but relatively unknown drummer Anika Nilles. Naturally, there was plenty of curiosity and even a bit of skepticism. But most fans reached the same conclusion. If Geddy and Alex believed she was the right person for the role, then she deserved a fair chance. Anika had already given fans a small taste of what she could do during Rush's appearance at the Juno Awards a few weeks earlier. However, that performance barely scratched the surface. It didn't answer the biggest question of all. Could she handle the sheer complexity and technical brilliance of Rush's catalogue over the course of a full-length concert? Interestingly, what began as a short reunion tour quickly grew into something much bigger. The 50-something tour has now expanded to almost 50 dates across North America, South America, and Europe. The tour kicked off with a 4-night residency at Los Angeles' Kia Forum, the very same venue where Rush played what everyone thought would be their final concert back on August 1st, 2015. By the third night, fans had already been glued to social media, watching clips from the opening shows and trying to piece together the ever-changing set lists. It soon became clear that this wasn't going to be a typical Rush tour. Instead of rotating just a couple of songs from night to night, the band had prepared nearly 40 tracks and were swapping out as many as 14 songs between performances. Every show felt unique, and by night 3, the big question was simple. What surprises would they have in store this time? Walking into the Kia Forum, it was immediately obvious that this was no low-key reunion. A gigantic wraparound video screen surrounded the stage, creating a truly spectacular setting. As has become tradition at recent Rush appearances, the evening began with a tongue-in-cheek pre-recorded comedy sketch featuring Geddy and Alex playing a variety of humorous characters. It was a light-hearted opening that perfectly captured the band's sense of humor before the emotional journey ahead. The film ended with the silhouettes of Geddy and Alex emerging through the smoke, each carrying their iconic double-neck guitars. Then, as the massive screen slowly lifted, the unmistakable opening notes of Xanadu rang out across the arena. It marked the first time the fan-favorite classic had ever opened a Rush concert, and it couldn't have been a more fitting choice. For those first few moments, the spotlight remained solely on the band's 2 surviving members, almost as if the audience was invited to reflect on the incredible journey they had shared together. When the full stage design was finally revealed, it resembled the rooftop of a city building, perhaps even a subtle nod to the Beatles' legendary rooftop performance captured in Get Back. Throughout the evening, there were several deeply emotional moments, especially the tributes to Neil Peart. During the first set, the audience heard archival audio of Neil reflecting on his life and musical journey before the band launched into bravado. Later in the show, while performing Time Stands Still, special guest Amy Mann returned to the stage, just as she had on the original 1987 studio recording. These tributes never felt forced or overly sentimental. Instead, they served as a powerful reminder that Neil's spirit remains an inseparable part of Rush. It was also a lovely touch to see the band's original drummer, John Rutsey, acknowledged on the giant screens later in the evening, ensuring that every chapter of Rush's history was honoured. Compared with the opening nights of the tour, Geddy and Alex looked far more relaxed. Any early nerves had largely disappeared. There were still a few minor musical slips and a small technical issue during the introduction to 2112, but none of it distracted from the overall performance. In fact, those little imperfections almost made the show feel more human. As expected, fan favourites such as Subdivisions, The Spirit of Radio and Free Will all made the set list. But the standout surprise of Night 3 came at the beginning of the second set, when the band performed Moving Pictures in its entirety and in the original running order. For long-time fans, this was an extraordinary gift. The inclusion of The Camera Eye, a track many consider a hidden gem, made the moment even more special. The only other song unique to the third night was New World Man from the Signals album. And with one final Los Angeles show still to come, fans were already wondering what other surprises might appear before the tour moved on to the next city. Yet beyond the music, the lights and the incredible production, perhaps the most memorable part of the evening was simply watching GeddyLee and Alexlifeson enjoy themselves. They constantly exchanged smiles, shared glances across the stage, and looked genuinely happy to be making music together again. It quickly became obvious why they had chosen to return, not because they had something to prove, but because they had missed this connection. Their interaction with Anika Nilles only strengthened that feeling of camaraderie. Before the tour began, one of the biggest concerns among fans had been the condition of GeddyLee's voice. During previous tours, some of the higher vocal parts had become increasingly difficult for him, but on this night, he exceeded expectations. Challenging songs like Free Will were delivered with confidence, power, and remarkable control. As for Anika, she answered every single doubt in spectacular fashion. Her drumming was precise, confident, and deeply respectful of Neil Peart's original arrangements. She faithfully recreated many of his signature fills while still adding subtle touches of her own personality. The audience responded enthusiastically throughout the night, especially during songs like Subdivisions, Tom Sawyer, and several other standout moments. Winning over the Rush fanbase is no easy task, particularly when you're stepping into such an iconic role. But by the end of the concert, there was little doubt that Anika Nilles had earned her place. Another key figure who deserves recognition is keyboardist and backing vocalist Lauren Gold, the fourth member of the touring lineup. Although Geddy still handled many of the band's iconic keyboard moments, including the famous Moog solo in Tom Sawyer and the unmistakable synthesizer lines in Subdivisions, Lauren took on many of the supporting keyboard parts, giving Geddy far more freedom to move around the stage. His backing vocals also added extra depth to the live sound. At first, seeing 4 musicians on stage under the Rush banner felt slightly unusual, but as the show unfolded, Lauren fit seamlessly into the performance and proved to be an important part of its success. In the end, Rush have achieved something that very few people believed was possible. They've returned not by trying to replace the past, but by celebrating it while embracing a new future. Rather than moving on from Neil Peart, they found a way to honour his legacy and carry it forward with dignity and respect. If the opening week of the 50-something tour is anything to go by, the road ahead promises to be a fascinating one. No one knows what will happen once the tour finally wraps up in 2027. But for now, Rush fans can simply savour a reality that once seemed impossible. This remarkable band is back where it belongs on stage, together again, sharing its music with the world.